Hello everyone, Tactical Lich here. Got a really fun best of 3 series from a Spanish tournament hosted by Coma White, played between me and Last Mohican. Now in this first battle, it is a non-meta faction Norska played by yours truly versus Last Mohican's super meta faction top tier Kislev. For the army build here, the Norskins here going for a rather narrow formation, a couple expensive Marauder champions, and a few regular Marauders just to pad out the infantry numbers. They are supported by a couple of Familiar Warriors forming a more solid backbone to the Norskin front line. Mobility-wise, we have a couple Skinwolves with extra armor just to mitigate the charges of the non-AP cavalry of the Kislev army. Other than that, a couple of Norskin Warhounds and some Order Horsemen with throwing axes to kite enemy armored cavalry. Leading the army, Wolfric the Wanderer coming in with Fight or Die, Hunter of Champions, and Seafang, supported by a Fire Shaman Sorcerer with Burning Head, Cascading Fire Cloak, and a Scroll of Shielding for some extra damage resistance. On the other side of the battlefield for the Kislevites, coming in with their signature missile melee hybrid infantry, armored Kossars backed up by regular Kossars, some of them with spears, some of them without. Further back, a couple more Kislevite warriors with their pole arms, and because they do have the Kislevite Barrow Blood, they can hold in melee for an exceptionally long time. A couple more of these warriors holding the flanks, and then on the far side we have some cheap and cheerful Kosovo dervishes. They are accompanied by some horse archers on the side. With the temporary Unbreakable of Barrow Blood, they are extra sticky in melee, able to tar pit enemy units using their mass for a prolonged period of time. Other than that, 3 whole units of Winged Lancers ready to run down my Norskin infantry, leading the army a single Eye Switch of Tempest here on a Frost Worm. Using only Hulks of Mixka to discourage enemy units, nuke their leadership, and then terror out them with the help of the Frost Worm. Anyways, that's it for the army builds. Now let's just get the battle started. Now do note that this battle was played before patch 5.3 dropped, so the stat lines of these units might be a bit outdated, but what is not outdated is the exciting multiplayer action, so we'll still be watching this replay here. I actually rolled back my game's version to cast this replay, and we're back on patch 5.2.7. The Marauder champions and Marauder infantry are advancing forward, while the enemy Last Mohican's horse archers here are chipping away the health of my Marauders and Warhounds, trying to do as much damage as possible before making contact in melee. I'll be fast forwarding the game a bit here, as the gameplay mostly is just dragging on a bit with the skirmishing action. Both sides are repositioning their armies here, just trying to get a more unified engagement instead of having isolated units here and there. But even then, some of these Marauders are lagging behind a bit. Now, the Winged Lancers here is seeing some Marauders unsupported by mobility. They are just going in for the side charge, doing some great impact damage on these unbraced Marauders, getting some pretty nice casualties on my Marauders. Though my rest of the Marauders, including these Vermeer Warriors, are advancing forward, the Marauder champions have taken quite some damage against the enemy mass missiles here. Even the Winged Lancers are trying to go for a charge against them to soften them up, but a counter charge from the Vermeer Warriors punishing these Winged Lancers with the armor sundering and their own armor piercing weapon damage as well. On the far side though, unfortunately, Norskin Warhounds being caught out of position, being overwhelmed by some Kosovite dervishes and Winged Lancers. I'll be sending in some Skin Wolves armored version, just trying to hold down this flank and do some anti-large damage, but the enemy mobility are just too great in numbers, overwhelming my Skin Wolves with their sheer weight of numbers, doing quite a bit of damage too with their charge despite all the armor and physical resistance. The Skin Wolves are buckling a bit, but more Marauders and Warhounds are flooding in, so these Skin Wolves are barely hanging on in terms of leadership and HP. Now the Familiar Warriors and the Marauder infantry on my side are engaging the enemy Kossars. The Familiar Warriors are definitely doing some good work here, sundering enemy armor, making sure that the Marauder infantry are doing a bit more damage, and also they have their own armor piercing and anti-infantry bonus to punch down enemy infantry. A nice Seafang onto some Kossar unit and hitting a second one, just a scratch, not a whole lot, but still pretty decent. And yeah, doing some decent work from Wolfric there, just trying to work down the enemy missile support. I probably should have just dropped it on the armored Kossars here so that my infantry can break through faster, but hey, damage is damage and I can't really complain. Now on the mobility engagement, once again, the Warhounds have been pushed back, though the Skin Wolves have managed to do some pretty nasty damage against the Kosovo Dervishes. I even used a Cascading Fire Cloak just to keep these Skin Wolves tanking damage a little longer with their additional melee defense. More Skin Wolves are charging in, but the Kislev Warriors are here to support, saturating in with their armor piercing and anti-launch bonus, doing some pretty nasty damage against my Skin Wolves. Thankfully, these Skin Wolves do have that additional 24 melee defense, so they can hang on a little longer, but even then, I'll be extracting them to charge another unit of Winged Lances who are coming in from the other side, and the Skin Wolves are totally surrounded. Wolfric, though, have been spending quite some time trying to chase after the Ice Witch of Tempest here, just trying to do some character sniping, but there are so many Kislevites on the field, so the Ice Witch, a very cunning combatant, slipping through the screening of their own infantry here, leaving Wolfric stuck on some random Kislevites, a burning hat onto enemy infantry here, burning down the rest of these Kislevite warriors and doing some minor damage against the Winged Lances as well. Not a whole lot, just a little bit of damage. Hulks of Miska here, trying to nuke down my unit's leadership, but these are familiar warriors, so they don't really take damage against AoE vortex spells. They do suffer a little bit from that lack of leadership with the Discourage effect, but they are still holding on pretty strong, so the Discourage isn't exactly affecting them too much. Marauders are flooding in, trying to pin down the Kislevite warriors so that the familiars can extract themselves before being dragged down to hell by those anti-launch armor-piercing cavalry. The Winged Lancers are going after isolated pockets of Northskin units, as my Skin Wolves armored version have been routing away from combat a bit, but now being caught once again by these Winged Lancers charge bonus, taking quite a bit of damage, and then more Kosovo Dervishes rear charging them. These Skin Wolves will probably be seen off as they're completely surrounded by enemy mobility. Wolfric's still busy chasing down the Ice Witch of Tempest, but the Ice Witch constantly moving, having just enough speed to make sure Wolfric can't get a solid hit on her, as Wolfric is still trying to catch up and land hits occasionally, just constantly switching between moving and attacking instead of standing still and focusing on landing those attacking animations. On the far side, there are familiar warriors driving back enemy Kossars with spears, just trying to eliminate more enemy infantry, though the Marauder infantry here are pretty much left alone against the crossfire of enemy Kossars and some Winged Lancers charging in as well. My Marauder champions have suffered quite a bit of damage. I even dropped a Scroll of Shielding here, just trying to keep them from taking too much damage in melee, trying to keep them alive on the battlefield a little longer. On the far side, Marauders duking it out against some Winged Lances, dragging down the last bit of these mobilities HP, while Wolfric is helping some Marauder Horsemen to drive off the enemy Winged Lances, and also most importantly, keep hunting down the Ice Witch, a hunter of champions, slowing down the Kislevite Lord, so that Wolfric can have an easier time catching up and doing a bit more damage to the Ice Witch of Tempest. Even the Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes are coming in for support, but the Horse Archers of Kislevites, just such a sticky and annoying unit. Still being very healthy, they might be out of ammo, but they are certainly not out of options, now charging into melee using their mask to screen off Wolfric, allowing the Ice Witch to escape. A Hulks of Miska trying to dissuade my pursuing force of Murder Horsemen here. Actually did a lot of friendly fire to the Horse Archers alongside the throwing axes shooting into this blob of Horse Archers, but the important thing is that the Horse Archers pin down Wolfric, preventing him from going after the Ice Witch of Tempest. Now, for my front line, everything is pretty much gone, with only some tattered Marauder infantry regrouping on the far side there, leaving the Shaman Sorcerer alone against the enemy infantry and the Ice Witch herself, quickly munching up my spell support. He probably won't come back here now that he is completely surrounded by Kislevite units. So there goes my spell support. No more Burning Hand, no more Cascading Fire Cloak for me. Though there are some pretty decent nasty Burning Hand throughout the battle, getting some okay kills, 700 gold worth of damage value, not too shabby. The Familiars are now in a fight against the Horse Archers with the support of some nearby Marauder infantry. Their heavy armor means that they don't take much damage against the Horse Archers and can drive them back with the help of the friendly infantry, though here come the Kislevite warriors with their anti-launch armor piercing. They are the perfect counter against the Familiar warriors here. And thankfully I do have those Marauders helping to tank some shots from those polearm poking. Though unfortunately, that Hulks of Miska, dropping the leadership of all these Marauder infantry and then the terror from the Frostworm of the Ice Witch, quickly routing these Marauders here. On the far side, Wolfric is still busy dealing with the enemy horse archers and winged lances, as my Marauder horsemen, the last bit of them, are constantly being pressured and harassed by the enemy Kislev mobility, very sticky units after all. Horse archers still having half health, they have not activated any of their Borrow Blood effect just yet, so even if their leadership drops, they will just keep fighting in melee and inflict damage on my units. As you can see here, the horse archers just keep staying in the fight despite the rear charge and continues to drag down my Marauder horsemen in melee combat. And the Marauder horses are on the verge of breaking. I even turn on Fight or Die just to keep these Marauder horsemen in the fight with that additional plus 16 leadership, and yet they might still be routing once the Fight or Die ability wears off, as the horse archers just did so much damage to them over the course of battle. On the other side of the battlefield, some Marauders have returned and they're charging towards the Corsairs, fulfilling the attacking rule, allowing my familiars to pull out of combat while the rest of my army regroups and try to go after something else. The Marauders are no doubt outclassed by the armored Corsairs and will lose this fight, but that is a necessary sacrifice to bail those familiars out of combat so that they can be reinforced by Wolfric and the Marauder horsemen. Though seems like the Frostworm does have enough speed to catch up to the familiars and will be trapping them in melee, allowing those Kislev warriors to catch up. I'm dropping a Hunter of Champions onto the Ice Witch of Tempest, lowering her melee stats, while the Ice Witch dropping a preventative Hooks of Miska, trying to deny my Marauder horsemen. So the Marauder horses are in a bit of an impasse. They still got scratched by the Hooks of Miska. They're suffering from that minus 16 leadership, and on top of that, they're standing in front of a bunch of Corsairs with bows and arrows, shooting them. They have a bronze shield, but they don't have much armor, especially when they are not facing the right direction to use the missile block chance, so they will be seen off by those Corsairs with bows and arrows. On top of that, the familiars have routed and Wolfric is truly alone. One final Sea Fang from Wolfric, doing some pretty nasty damage to the enemy infantry once again, but Wolfric at this point is out of Sea Fang, so no more great options to clear out the enemy Corsair infantry, and this is definitely an uphill battle for Norscan. I mean, it has been an uphill battle for quite a while, but still, this is getting even worse for Norsca. The routed familiars are being chased by the Ice Witch, and Wolfric really needs to get over here, hunt down the Ice Witch, and bail out those routed units. I've got some Marauder Champion infantry returning from routing, but they're so tattered, I don't know what they can even do at this point. Wolfric continues to go after the Ice Witch of Tempest, as the Ice Witch of Tempest chase down my familiar warriors. I'm trying to get them back, but they're so close to the white line, and the Ice Witch refuses to let go. The familiars actually have positive leadership right now. The problem is that the enemies are too close. Wolfric trying his best to hunt down the Ice Witch, but the Ice Witch eventually, with the Frostworm mount helping her to go after the familiar warriors, will see off my monstrous infantry. Now, the familiar warriors are out, and the Ice Witch of Tempest will be returning to the support of his own troops. On the far side, the friendly Norscan Marauder infantry here are regrouping, but they're very, very far away from the actual action here, all the way on the other side of the map, where Wolfric is still trying to go after the Ice Witch with the Frostworm. The problem is that once again, the Kislev infantry are bogging down the Norscan Lord, while his own Norscan infantry are too far away to help. Wolfric got stuck in a bunch of polearms, taking quite a bit of damage over time, but here comes the Marauder infantry, who have returned to combat, advancing towards enemy formation, fulfilling the attacking role. Now Wolfric is free to keep going after the Ice Witch of Tempest. I know I probably can't win this one, but I want to at least bring down the Ice Witch of Tempest and avenge my fallen units here. Hunter of Champions once again going down on the Ice Witch, slowing her down, but the Armored Corsairs and the remaining Kislev warriors are just piling in, buying some very, very precious time for Ice Witch of Tempest to get out of dodge, following another Wolfric's attempt to snipe out their Kislevite Lord. Wolfric's health is running low, balance of power is not in favor of Norscans at all. Marauder infantry charging in, but the terror from the Frostworm quickly routing them off. And that shall be army losses, Last Mohican getting the first win with his Kislevite army. GG to Last Mohican for this very first victory in the best of 3 series there. The Ice Witch of Tempest definitely doing some good cycle charging work. Now, in patch 5.3, the Frostworm doesn't actually have collision attacks, but either way, still doing some pretty nasty work there, using the Hulks of Miska and the Terror of the Frostworm as a combo, and routing my rather flimsy leadership of the Marauder unit, and even the Familiars in the end, suffering quite a bit of damage over time over the course of battle, is unable to hold up against the enemy attacks. As for the rest of the army here, the Kislevite warriors getting some really good trade against my monsters. This one not so much, but the others all earned back their own worth, being a very cost-efficient anti-large armor-piercing infantry. Winged Lances did pretty well. constantly pressuring my Marauder horses and the Skin Wolves, and also charging my unarmored infantry, getting some very solid kills and value over time, while the Kislevite infantry, they either sit and hold in melee combat or just peppering down the enemy troops with their missiles being very effective as well. As for the other mobility, Kosovoite dervishes and the horse archers are just great for their stickiness. They don't necessarily do the most damage, but they can constantly stay on their target's tail. Even if they are suffering heavy losses, they can just turn on Bile Blood and just stay in melee combat a little longer, doing that little bit more damage or silencing my missiles a little longer, which is quite unfortunate for my Marauder horsemen constantly being pressured by the Kislevite light cavalry. As for the rest of my units here, Marauder infantry not doing too hot either, being very much countered by the Terror of the Frostworm and the Hulks of Miskad, which did quite some damage as well. While the Skin Wolves, I definitely could have used them in a better way. They got isolated way too much and just fighting without support in this battle, while the Familiar Warriors were probably my best performing unit in the entire game, tanking a ton of damage, refusing to rout in the face of the enemy winged lances, the dervishes, and horse archers. Just that their biggest weakness here, the Kislevite warriors, are quite effective and managed to drag them down over time. Warfric did some great damage hunting down the Ice Witch with Frostworm, but even so, he was still not able to turn this battle around. Some good burning hands from the Shaman Sorcerer as well, but alas, Kislev will be reigning supreme in this first best of 1 battle. And yeah, that's it for today's battle. I'll be casting more of this best of 3 series in future videos, so be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to my channel. That's it for today, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich signing out.